Chapter 2. The 1% Rule. In 2002, I needed to get better at investing. I had lost everything. I had no career, no job. And when you lose everything, you find out quickly who your friends are. In my case, I had no friends left. I wanted to be a professional investor. I wanted to invest my own and others' money and build up and have a career. I was starting from scratch. Worse than scratch. I was broke. I kept regretting everything I had done that got me to that point. And I was feeling anxious that I was destined to be a failure, that the future held nothing good for me. I vaguely remembered points in my life when I had felt happiness, but they seemed so distant and so out of reach for me. And I would look at my 2 daughters and think that I had ruined their chances of having a good childhood or having a father they could admire and look up to. I took long walks every day. I'd wake up super early and walk around downtown Manhattan before anyone else was awake. And then at night I would take even longer walks, until I was sure everyone in my house would be asleep. I didn't want to run into anyone I knew, even in my own house. But at one point I started to get excited about the idea of writing a book. And I also started to get excited about an approach to investing that I had been working on. Every day I worked a little harder. I studied every aspect of the investment business, a business I had no expertise in at all. I read books about the history of investing, I wrote software to model the stock markets, I met with other investors and asked them questions. I was learning and getting better each day. When you get excited about something, your heart lights on fire. That fire propels you to learn more, to study more, to work a bit harder. And by the end of the day you look back and instead of being filled with regrets that have lasted years, you find yourself satisfied with the events of that single day that is now shutting down. I would say to myself, I got a little bit better today, and I knew that laid the foundation for having an even better day the next day. Getting a bit better every day shortened the amount of time I would spend each day on time traveling into the land of embarrassment and foolishness and regrets from the past, or traveling into a future filled with spiderwebs of uncertainty and anxiety. Within 2 years, I was running a hedge fund with millions invested, I was writing my first book, I was writing a column for the Financial Times, and, a few years after that, I sold an investment-related business for millions. Then, unfortunately, I went broke again. But still, I had started to put together the methods that would pull me out of darkness again and again. I never took the time to understand then what was happening. It was only later that I had to ask myself, why is this always happening to me? And instead of just getting good at whatever it was I was passionate about, I would eventually become passionate about simply feeling good with today, knowing it would be the cornerstone, the building block for everything that was to come. A full-time job is 2,000 hours a year. But when you first start a new career or want to get good at a new skill, you don't have 2,000 hours a year. You have to be able to pay the bills, to support a family. And what if after 10,000 hours you become interested in something else? Are you really going to spend 10 to 20 years of your life mastering something and then never use that skill? What if you knew a secret method of training that would catapult you right past all of the professionals in your chosen field? An example, if you play golf, you can spend 10,000 hours practicing your swing in different situations. You can get good feedback from a coach and keep repeating your swing. Within 10,000 hours you'll be great, maybe among the best in the world. But about 30 years ago, with the rise of Tiger Woods and a new generation of golf professionals, research by scientists and coaches discovered that one attribute can speed up the process of getting great at golf: leg strength. If you put more emphasis on weight training for your legs and lower body, you will have more power when you are hitting a golf ball. What if a golfer had known that 40 years earlier? Let's say he kept the secret to himself and didn't tell anyone. He wouldn't need 10,000 hours to get as good as the top professionals. Who knows how much he would need? Maybe that one piece of knowledge will allow our aspiring pro to quickly skip 2,000 hours. We don't really know. So I started trying a new approach to getting good at something, and by interviewing hundreds of peak performers in nearly every area of life, I noticed that many of these high-performing artists, businessmen, entrepreneurs, investors, artists, writers, actors, etc. also often use this same approach.
It can be applied to rising to the top of a career, learning a new skill so that you quickly end up in the top 1% of your field, or even building your network and relationships so you can take advantage of future opportunities that come your way.
There's no such thing as a straight line in careers anymore. Each crisis we face changes the world even more. Jobs are lost. Industries disappear. The nature of work changes. People's interests and passions change.
So, what if you want to make it to that top 1% of your field as quickly as possible?
In this book, we will do away with the 10,000-hour rule, the rule that says if you work at something for 10,000 hours you will be among the best in the world at that thing. That rule no longer works, if it ever did. I found that in my own life. Being able to construct experiments to quickly try out ideas, learn from them, and move on from them beats the 10,000-hour rule. I call it the 10,000 experiments rule. It's a way of approaching change and crisis by using a set of tools to help with creativity, execution, persuasion, productivity, and leadership, all of which, when working together, will catapult you higher than you ever thought possible and at a speed that everyone will tell you is impossible. I'm not saying this because I did a research project. I'm saying it because I had to do it. Often because my interests and passions changed or merged. Or, worse, often because I was broke and was forced to find success in a new field, and I had to do it quickly in order to feed my family. Science is important. But the best laboratory is your life. The best scientist is yourself. The best experiments are when you try to do what has never been tried before. This is the research lab, and this is where the discoveries are made, the only place to make discoveries that work for you and that reflect your unique perspective on the world. Dick Fosbury was a high jumper in the 1960s. He was mediocre at best. The technique for high jumping then, the upright scissors technique, involved running straight toward the bar while facing it, jumping, and then lifting your legs higher than the bar while you leapt over it. Fosbury simply couldn't do it. His legs were long, so he'd always clip the bar and never get to the heights everyone else was reaching. He did an experiment one day. He jumped backward. He approached the bar with his back toward it and then leapt with his back still facing the bar, completely the reverse of everyone else. His high school coach begged him to stop. "It won't work. You can't do this." He wouldn't let Fosbury use it in official competitions, but when he saw Fosbury flip backward, in what is now known as the Fosbury flop, in a freshman competition, he said, "Okay, let's try it." Fosbury went from mediocre in high school to winning the gold medal at the 1968 Olympics just a few short years later. First everyone laughed, then everyone told him not to do it, and then every high jumper switched to his method. He used his knowledge of the sport to create a unique perspective. He won a gold medal. And he changed the sport forever. He didn't do it by practicing 10,000 hours more than everyone else. He did it not by falling into line but by stepping out of line. He skipped it. And you can too. The first technique to master is the 1% rule. Understanding this principle shows how with a tiny effort every day, you can develop the tools needed to quickly become among the best in the world in any field you want. Here's how it works. If you have $1 in a savings account and the account pays 1% interest per day, then in 365 days you will have $37.78. In other words, your investment of $1, compounding at 1% per day, would make you almost 3,800% within a year. I sometimes say this to people and they say, why wouldn't it be 365%? That would give me just $3.65 at the end of the year. A big difference from $37.78. But compounding is like magic. In one day, your $1 becomes $1.01, 1% more than $1. But on the second day, it's not $1.02, it's $1.0201, 1% more than $1.01. And on day 3 it's not $1.03, it's $1.030301, 1% more than $1.0201. And so on. That's compounding. It starts off small, but the end result is enormous. I had a friend, Rob, who loved playing chess. I played with him for 20 years. He was good, but he never studied the game, never attempted to get better. And that's fine. It's good to be satisfied with where you are and be happy with it. But I could tell Rob wanted to get better. He would be disappointed when he lost, and he would be gleeful when he won. I said to him, Rob, you have skill. Why don't you take a few lessons or buy a book and study the game a little bit? I would tell him the math of the 1% rule. If you study just a few chess puzzles a day, you'll get 1% better each day, and probably in a year you will be better than almost everyone you know. Your skill, if it can be measured this way, will be 3,800% better. He would always tell me, now, I just like playing. And again, that's fine. I wanted him to get better because I could see how frustrated he was when he lost. But everybody makes the choices they want. Perhaps there was some pleasure he got out of being disappointed. I don't know. There's always a reason. Let's apply it to your career, your passion, your skills, whatever you want to apply it to. If I want to get 1% better every day at cooking, then this means I will be almost 3,800% better, or 38 times better than I was, within a year. What does that even mean? It's hard to measure cooking skill, for instance. What does it mean to be 1% better at cooking? But it's a way of thinking about things. If I get a little better each day, I'm not just better than I was when I started, I'm 1% better than I was the day before. I'm compounding my skill rather than just adding to it. It's hard to know what 1% of a skill is. But just imagine that you are putting the same determination and focus in each day, and there's a way to measure your skill, and now, today, you're going to get 1% better than you were the day before. Cooking is a hard one for me. The last time I cooked anything was years ago on Valentine's Day. I accidentally left the gas on. Then when I lit a match to relight the gas, the oven blew up. The fire department was called. Flames everywhere. I'm lucky I didn't get burned. When my girlfriend arrived, she screamed at me, "What did you do?" She threw the meal I was eventually able to put together onto the floor. That relationship didn't last much longer. But, today, if I wanted to get 1% better at cooking, maybe I would learn how to make scrambled eggs. Sounds simple. Then the next day maybe I'd learn how to bake a fish. That seems like at least 1% more skill than the day before. Maybe then I'd start reading about which sauces to put on the fish. And the next day I'd bake a fish, cut it up, and try different sauces on each part to see which I liked the best and compare it with the recipes I was reading. Now I know more recipes, and also I've learned about how different flavors mesh with fish. That seems like 1% better than the day before. Maybe I would then take lessons. Or maybe I would start applying a technique I call idea sex, taking two ideas, letting them mate with each other, and seeing the baby idea that is birthed, which I'll describe in more detail later in the book, and start making sushiritos. Sushi combined with burritos. Perhaps one day I want to share my results. I write a blog or a Facebook post about what I'm doing. Every week I share a bit more. People start to engage with my posts. I'm the expert everyone goes to about sushiritos. People will share ideas back with me. Or make suggestions. Part of any knowledge learned is when you can tap into the hive mind. I become 1% more known for being that sushirito guy. And my network expands. Now I'm not only getting better at cooking, I'm also carving out my own little area in the niche. The Wright brothers collaborated with hundreds of people trying to learn the basics of aviation before that field of science even existed. Collaboration and the sharing of ideas gains knowledge and builds your expertise. After 365 days, I'll be a lot better than someone who just learns one new fish recipe a day. And using the techniques of idea sex and the 10,000 experiments rule, I'll have many opportunities to form a unique perspective on cooking that maybe even world-class chefs won't have. This doesn't mean I'll be better than a world-class chef. But being the only is often more important than being better. Careers are made by the people who bring new ideas to an ancient craft. Many people attempt to be at the top of an ancient craft. But few come up with the Fosbury flop and add to the entire definition of the craft. Again, this is a bit subjective. It's hard to say, I've learned 1% more about business today. That's a hard thing to measure. At the end of each day, ask yourself, did I improve at least 1% in my career or skill or whatever I am trying to improve today? People who do this start off slow but then begin to see amazing results. Coolio wrote rap lyrics every day for 17 years. In 1995, his hit Gangsta's Paradise was the #1 song of the year on Billboard. Kurt Vonnegut wrote every day for 25 years before he had a major bestseller. Pablo Picasso created 2 works of art a day. That's more than 50,000 in a lifetime. It adds up. But it's too late for me. No, it's not. Compounding creates fast results. If you think about skill and even career and networking in terms of compounding, then at any age you can reinvent yourself, apply this philosophy, and be enormously better within just 1 year. If I write 1,000 words a day, in 1 day that's nothing. But in 1 year that's the equivalent of 2 to 3 novels. And if my skill improves with each day, perhaps because I'm experimenting with styles, coming up with new ideas for different genres, etc., then I'll very quickly be able to find a niche in writing and have the ability to support it, which will catapult me out front. This is not being competitive, or trying to beat other people at skills they might have spent decades building. It's never about that, although that will happen. It's about being able to do what you love, reaching a level where you can make an impact on the world, and quickly rising to a status where you are recognized for it and even paid for doing what you love. There's something else you should know. You can also lose 1% a day. You can say, it's only 1 day. Don't pressure me. But if you decrease in knowledge by 1% a day, then at the end of the year you'll have only 3% of the knowledge that you once had. You will have lost nearly all of your skills. People who remain too satisfied, who go to work and do their routine and don't focus on that 1% of improvement and learning, will be outpaced by others and left with excuses like, well, that guy doesn't have a family like I do, or I guess other things were more important to me. But by using the 1% rule and other tools in this book, for instance, the 51 rule for increased productivity, or the techniques of idea calculus and frame control, you will find that you have almost infinite time to make those 1% improvements in your life every day. Everything in this book is interconnected. Skipping the line is not a set of hacks for different situations, nor is it a set of shortcuts to use when a specific situation arises. It's a way of living your life by allowing your passions to drive your learning, time, and other resources. It's allowing yourself to do what comes naturally to you by getting better at it day by day. These techniques were not developed in a social psychology research laboratory. Yes, many people do this research and write their best-selling books, but often the skills they describe are not practical in real life. The ideas here are built from practical experience, both from my own experiences and from the experiences of many others. You're reading this book because you want to be at the top of your chosen passion, you want to make money doing it, and you want to reach the potential you knew you were meant to achieve. This is your journey and not someone else's that they are trying to impose on you. Each technique is important, but understanding the 1% a day improvement is critical to mastering the rest. It may seem trivial, 1% up or 1% down, but your decisions about how you spend each day sneak up until they come to define you. Every day matters. End of math class.